This is GPS, the Global Public Square. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Fareed Zakari, coming to you this week from London. We begin the show with an exclusive interview with Maziar Bahari, the Newsweek reporter who spent 4 months in an Iranian prison. He has written about it in this week's Newsweek. He has a harrowing, moving tale to tell. Everyone has forgotten you. Those were words Maziar Bahari heard every day from interrogators during the 4 months he spent in solitary confinement in an Iranian prison. Maziar is my colleague, a fine journalist who works for Newsweek. He is also an award-winning filmmaker. He was arrested, along with hundreds of others, during the protests that followed Iran's disputed election. The end of his ordeal came in October, when he was released on bail of 3 billion riyals, equal to 300,000 American dollars. He flew back to his home in London just days before his wife, Paola, gave birth to their first child, a girl. I'm delighted to welcome Maziar Bahari as my guest today. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So take us back to the 21st of June. In Iran.
Well, I was asleep. It was, I think, around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. I was staying with my mother at that time. I was between apartments, and my mother came into the room I was sleeping, and she said, "Dear, there are 4 people here. They say they are from the prosecutor's office." She already had doubted them, and they want to take you away.
So they take you away right away?
They took me away right away. There were 5 cars waiting outside, and then we headed north from my mother's house. I asked them whether they were going to take me to Evin prison, and they said, maybe we do, maybe we do not. So everything was uncertain from the beginning. But when we headed north, I realized that they were going to take me to Evin.
Now, Evin is the military prison. It's a place where there's been a lot of torture. There have been Western journalists who have died under torture.
Many people.
So you're scared at this point when you realize...
I was very scared. I mean, when I went to Evin and, I realized it was Evin, I remembered all the interviews I had done in the past with different people who were tortured in prison. I remembered all those interrogation stories, long hours of interrogation, solitary confinement, everything. It was, I didn't know what to do.
And when you get there, they still don't charge you?
In the beginning, I was charged with masterminding the Western media in Iran. That went on for about 10 days. After that,
in fact, they said, I see in your article in Newsweek, they said they accused you of working for the CIA, Mossad, and Newsweek, as if they were all intelligence agencies.
And not only that, they mentioned your name as well. They said that your editors, Fareed Zakari and Christopher Dickey, they are part of the American intelligence apparatus. And I told them, well, Fareed never told me that.
but I assume they had no sense of humor about this. You had to be very serious.
I had to be very respectful. I had to be very differential, and I had to be very serious.
But you were interrogated for hours and hours and hours. And at some level, you had nothing to say because you were just doing your job as a journalist. So what would you say to them?
I was just saying that I'm just a hack doing my job. I'm not a spy. My interrogator told me that I was going to be executed every day. I mean, every time for about 3 months, he told me that one day, 4 o'clock in the morning, after the morning prayers, you wake up and you see the noose in front of you. And I make sure that I will be the person who will kick the chair off your feet, and then you will be hanging, and that's the end of you. So I was living with, the threat of execution for almost 3 months.
And why do you think he was doing that? To scare you, and to force you to say something?
Exactly. He was trying to scare me, and he was trying to put me under a lot of psychological pressure in order for me to submit to what they wanted me to be. I mean, I had physical torture as well, but the psychological torture was much more effective.
What was the nature of the physical torture?
Kicking, punching, slapping, hitting with the belt. Humiliation is the main thing that they do to you in Evin prison, because they just want to humiliate you so much that you just submit to whatever charges they're throwing at you. What they wanted me to really do was to name different individuals and fabricate facts about them in order to make cases for them, you know. And especially there were reformists, there were other journalists, and because they didn't have anything on them, they just wanted me to make up things in order to put them on trial or persecute them. I don't know what, but that was the first thing I told myself that I was not going to do, to name any individuals. First of all, I didn't know any secrets of any individuals of importance. And then I thought that if I was going to fabricate facts about them, I could not live with myself. I mean, I'd rather die, you know.
What was it like to be in solitary confinement?
It might be the most difficult part of prison, to be in solitary confinement. You know, in the Quran, Allah says that one of the punishments for sinners is to contract their graves, to make their graves smaller. When you're in solitary confinement, you just see the walls approaching each other and they're becoming smaller. And it's as if you're in a grave. It was just, and you start to hallucinate after a while.
When you're in prison and you think that you might get executed, and this guard is constantly, this interrogator is constantly saying that to you, what are the thoughts that go through your mind? You know, take us through. I mean, it's such a rare experience to be that close to death. What is going on in your head?
Actually, after a few weeks that when he threatened me with executions, I thought that, you know, so what? I can be executed and that's the end of it. And sometimes I thought, you know, it's better than being in a solitary confinement for I don't know how long. Because some people, they had to spend their, you know, 3-4 years in solitary confinement in the Islamic Republic. And I contemplated committing suicide twice. I had my glasses, the same glasses, in jail. And a couple of times I just looked at these glasses and I thought, well, I can always break the lens and I just can cut my wrist. And I was just thinking that how long it's going to take to bleed to death. How long it's going to take to bleed to death. And I started to think about it, and then I just thought that, you know, no, I'm not going to do that. Why should I do their job for them? If they want to kill me, they can do it themselves. I'm not going to be their executioner for myself. And, you know, I had so much to lose. I have my family, of course. I have my wife, I have my child, and I have my mother, my family, my friends. And it's just, but they are masters of psychological torture. They know exactly what to do.
So Maziar, the last phase of your imprisonment, about 20 days before you're released, something begins to seem to change, you said. Why do you think it changed?
It was mainly because of the international campaign for me and because of the international pressure, but also because of the internal pressure. As you know, most of my colleagues, including yourself and many others, they campaigned for me, and I mean, it was a non-stop campaigning. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it until, actually,